Hi, my name's Leon Rowe, currency trader and trading coach at trading180.com, and welcome to this week's supply and demand Forex technical analysis. Hope you're doing well. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. Hope you find great value in this weekly videos that I do every week, every Sunday. And just a few things before we get started into the technical analysis, just to let you know that this will be the last Sunday video for the year, as pretty much all the big news ahead is going to be coming out this week before Christmas, and then the markets will definitely slow down, and then into the new year, or next Sunday I think is going to be New Year's Eve. We'll say next Sunday, but the Sunday after it's going to be New Year's Eve, and then the following Sunday I will start to make the videos again. So if I don't speak to you before then, have a great Christmas and a wonderful new year. Hope you all stay safe and spend it with friends and family. So this week ahead, we've got just a bit of fundamental news. We've got the Federal Reserve, Bank of England and the Bank of Japan will decide on their monetary policy. So there should be some moves in the market this week. If you're not necessarily interested in fundamentals, I definitely advise that you start to keep an eye on fundamentals. And if you want a bit of a crash course into fundamentals, I have a fundamental course. Link is in the description box below. All right, fundamental analysis, fundamental and sentiment analysis Forex trading course, and you'll learn pretty much what I know regarding fundamental and sentiment analysis. And I also have a spreadsheet where I applied fundamental and sentiment analysis on the major pairs. And if you go through the course, you'll understand why I'm bullish on the dollar, and I have been pretty much for the whole year. Slightly neutral, slightly bearish on the euro, etc, etc. And what this does is it really just allows me to keep an eye on what trades I should be, and what way I should be buying, and what way I should be obviously shorting, right? And what currencies are the best to buy and sell, what currencies should be going into a trending market, and what should be really entering into some sort of ranging market. So link is in the description box below. And also lastly, if you want to go to the Tradingview channel, right, Tradingview UK or tradingview.com, I think they do separate sites depending on where you are. And what you do is you go to the ticker, go to people, and then you search for my name, Leon Rowe, and it'll bring up the chart analysis. And I'll do this as and when, as far as once supply and demand zones break. If there's anything new, I'll update it in in real time, and I'll post all my analysis on my chart, right? So what I'm also going to do this week is I'm going to try something again slightly different from previous weeks, and I'm going to be going on doing my analysis through my Tradingview charts, just to show you that from a historical perspective up until present. So from last week to this week, technical analysis and what trades were available. So let's move on to our usual starting pair, or say starting pair, but starting index, which is the dollar index and the US dollar index. And again, this analysis is taken from the Tradingview profile, right? So last week, the last update, which was here, what we had was prices pretty much we're in this supply, between this supply zone and this demand zone. The demand zone being the green area, right? So what we're looking for is for prices to come down into the demand zone if you want to be a buyer, right? If you want to be a seller of the dollar, then what you'd be looking for is price obviously reacting off of that level there. Now, you don't necessarily trade the US dollar index. What you'd be looking for is to trade any of the other correlating dollar Forex pairs. And if you see prices selling off on the dollar index, right, which is basically just a measure of strength, of the dollar with the major forex currency pairs like the yen, euro, and the pound, then what you'd be looking for is supply zones, obviously within the you know, pound dollar, euro pound, sorry, euro dollar, and other dollar correlated pairs, and then you look for, you know, some short trades or long trades depending on which is the base or the quote currency, right? So what we had from the last time I updated this chart was prices were kind of in between the supply and demand zone, and these purple zones are what we would call horizontal support and resistance. And what we're looking for is horizontal support and resistance within these demand zones or supply zones as almost confluence for getting long or short, and it adds to the supply and demand equation. So we want to understand from a technical perspective why traders are going to be, you know, there's going to be more demand at an area, demand orders, than supply, or supply than demand. And I have a course on that, and the link is in the description box below, and also in the top right hand side if you want to understand about the supply and demand equation and really how to apply, you know, horizontal, diagonal, and dynamic support and resistance to supply and demand zones, and really why, you know, we apply these areas to supply and demand zones, right? So demand zones are value, right, and then we just look for horizontal, diagonal, and dynamic support and resistance within value areas. So since last week, last time I updated the charts, you can see pretty much what's happened. Let's load new bars. Prices didn't quite come down to this demand zone, but we did have a push up into pretty much present day from Friday, and this is the reaction into this supply zone, right? So I've been a buyer of the dollar, so what I was pretty much looking for was buy trades anyway. Sometimes you don't get prices come exactly into demand zones, but this is more used as, I would say, confluence. You don't have to always wait for prices to come down right into demand zones, but if you do see some bullish price action, look to the dollar index for confluence. So with that being said, we are pretty much right up in this supply zone. So with the Federal Reserve looking to raise interest rates this week, will we see, you know, the dollar index, you know, shoot further up, right? Take out this this supply zone right here, right? It's long-term supply zone, which is will it load? Nope, it won't load, but I think there is should be one above it as well. But I'm looking for to be a buyer anyway of the US dollar. If there is a surprise, then obviously, you know, definitely get short if the Federal Reserve do not raise interest rates. And this isn't financial advice, but it will basically, you know, shock the market, because the market is expecting a rate hike. So if they don't raise rates, you know, this week, then all bets are off, and I'll definitely be getting short. So moving on to the dollar yen. So the dollar yen from last time we saw the charts was, let's just zoom in a little bit. It was here from the 7th of December. Now I'm looking to get long on the dollar yen, and in fact I did get long on the dollar yen, right? And what we had was prices came down into this demand zone with, you got the horizontal support, and then you had also diagonal support within this area as well. And I'll bring my trade across, right? And these are the trades that I'm in. You can see long dollar, and I'm still in one position. I've taken profit on one of these positions, so I got in at the 112.729 level, right, which was around here. And in fact, let me just go to chart. All right, we can zoom in and have a look on a lower time frame. All right, so this is pretty much where I entered, the 112.72, and I entered two positions, take profit on a 1-to-1, and then I let the second position run. So right now, this dollar yen trade is what we would call a free trade. If prices come back, pretty much the worst that can happen is I will break even on this trade. So I also want to mention that there was, I think there was some dynamic support, right? Yep, with the 100 EMAs, right, also came into this area here. So we had pretty much a brilliant setup, right, this week, and this is where I managed to enter, stop below the lows, right, and then pretty much just entered. And yeah, so that was the dollar yen trade. If you guys are looking to get short on this currency pair, then you'd be looking at probably the first area would be this diagonal resistance area right here, and then probably the higher area of supply, fresher supply, as it hasn't been touched yet. And as well, you've got this I think it's long-term, yeah, resistance level here, where you've got resistance, 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 right? It has been touched several times in the past, so it, you know, the more the level is touched, the weaker it does become. So this could break, you could probably see a reaction, then it break higher. So that's probably what I'm expecting anyway. My profit target is somewhere around here, because I don't expect really any much movement. If prices do go up here, then I'll be taking profit somewhere around here for the rest of the year, and then I'm pretty much out of my second position. So yeah, these are the levels. If you're looking for a buy trade, you'd be looking for prices really to come down, and we do have, in fact, a technically we have higher highs, higher lows being made, right? So we do have demand zone, so we do have a bit of a demand zone here, right, as we do have, even though we're in this supply zone, we've made a higher high, pulled back, and then made a higher high with this candle, right? So according to my rules regarding supply and demand, higher highs, higher lows, lower highs, lower lows, strong areas of demand, right? So this area right here, this is where I want to be looking to be a buyer. So if prices do come back down into this zone, this is where, you know, you'd be looking for your another entry. But again, just be careful that we have touched this area of demand once, twice, 3 times. So if it does come down anywhere within this zone, just be careful. We do have probably another, do we have another one? It is an area, right? It is an area. It's just that you'd have to probably look towards the bottom of this area here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this up, move that. I'll keep this there. And again, if you are going to get long, that's where you've got it. So I would say this is resistance, bit of resistance, support, resistance here, support, bit of support, support there. So yeah, the top of that level, so this 112.7 level is where you should begin to start looking to potentially scale in if you're looking at getting long. Doesn't mean that you should, depending on obviously what happens this week, price action and fundamental sentiment. But this, if you do get a pullback, that would be the first area. Again, second area looking to, and this would be the preferable area. This is more of a fresher area of demand, as prices really haven't touched this for a while. We've made new highs from this area, so there was definitely strong demand at this price level here. So now moving on to the dollar Swiss. And this was from the last update on Tradingview, and we can see, and I was looking to get long in this currency pair, and managed to get long right here. Actually, matter of fact, it was up here. We put in this nice outside candle on the daily time frame chart, right? And we had the confluence of horizontal support and resistance, which has been used as support, resistance, support. So traders again looking to establish new positions or take profit. This is where there's going to be you know, a lot of demand orders around here. And obviously from a value perspective, we're supply and demand traders. From a fundamental perspective, you know, why you would be buying the Swiss franc is beyond me, unless it was obviously a risk play. But we've had obviously this move from this week, so there was definitely plenty of opportunity to get long, and I managed to get long in 2 positions at the 0.9931, 0.9932 levels, which is going to be around, let's go to the chart and I'll show you the entry. Again, it was probably up here, right? So you had the big push up, right? And it was around this level here, so 9932 level, right? Looking for nearly, you know, a 1-to-1 should be probably somewhere up at the highs at this level. If prices do come up here, and then we have a pretty much a free trade, and I'm going to let it again run to the highs of this potential range, as prices have been between this low and this high. This is where I expect prices to kind of range from, right? So looking into this week, we're looking at daily time frame chart. Pretty much now is a short trade, right? If you're looking to get short, and again, what happens depending on what happens this week with the dollar, right? And if you're looking to get long, then you're looking for probably a retest of this level here. And again, depending on what happens with price action, other short areas you're looking at is here. If prices do break this demand zone here, then the next real demand zone, unless prices create a demand zone, is going to be down here. So if what I mean is, let's say for example prices come all the way, you know, past this level here, right? Now we don't always have to wait for prices to come all the way down to this demand zone, because in between this wide space here and here, we could potentially create demand, right, where we have something like that go on, and then this would be our new area of demand, and then we'll be waiting for price to come back down here to look for a long trade if we're looking to buy the dollar, that is, right? So yeah, these are your options for this week. Moving on to the dollar CAD. Dollar CAD, let's zoom in a little bit. So this week we've had prices kind of come down into this demand zone right here. Kind of, I wouldn't say break past, but you know, spiked through that demand zone, closed within that area, and then, you know, pretty much we're in this prices came in this supply zone and this demand zone, and obviously prices were bought up, and then we can see at the moment, oh sorry, let's see, what have I done? Demand, right, there we go. So prices are right now still within this supply zone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this supply zone. Matter of fact, I'll update the charts. I don't really like prices kind of meandering around this. I would say probably best thing to do is wait for prices if you do want to get short. No, in fact, you know what, I'll keep it there. I will keep it there, and I would say if you're looking to get short, you can probably get short anywhere around now, right? But I'd preferably say wait for prices to come up into this 1134 level if you are looking to get short. If you're looking to get long, again, anywhere within this demand zone around here. And again, you've got diagonal, horizontal, and don't forget dynamic. So let's go to chart in real time, right? So do we have any new horizontal levels? I can see one right here, so it would really be the top of that level there, right? So if prices do come down, as you've got support there, resistance, bit of resistance, right? Bit of support there from that. So if we're looking for a long trade, that's going to be probably your first area to look for a long. If you're looking for a short trade, like I said, we do have resistance here. We have spiked through it, but I'd probably be waiting for a higher level right here. Right, there's one there, and it looks like, in fact, you've got one on the lower side, right there, where it's reacted off of. If we zoom in a little bit, yeah, you can see where we do have some support and resistance, and you can kind of right back, resistance, support, support, resistance, support, etc. So at the lower end of this zone, you can see where prices reacted. And again, if you want to be a buyer of the Canadian dollar over the US dollar, then this is going to be the area to look to get, you know, short. If you are looking to get short right now, you could probably get short as well, but wait for prices to probably come up here. If they do, and then that would be the first area for longs and shorts. So moving on to the New Zealand dollar. Here we go. New Zealand dollar. So from last week's video, I actually updated this this week. So this was, let me go to last week's video, or last week's chart I should say. And what we had was this area here. So prices came down into this demand zone, and then obviously looking for a long trade. We had the confluence of obviously support and resistance. So if you were looking to be a buyer of the New Zealand dollar, then this would be in the first area to look to get long, right? But what we ended up having was prices did react, but then obviously the dollar got stronger, right? And we're now where we are. So if you are looking to get long in this currency pair, now's your chance to get long right here. Got demand zone here. Let me actually, let's go back to the charts, and let's go to the New Zealand dollar. Right, so now would be the area to look to get long, and if you're looking to get short, you have lower highs, lower lows being made. Right, this is going to be the area to look for short trades, and you can see we have the confluence of obviously supply with horizontal resistance. So there'll be traders who, you know, are looking to enter here as well, adding to the supply and demand equation to the short side, right? Again, depending on what happens this week with the US dollar monetary policy and the Fed, right? So these are pretty much your options. Again, you have area up here to look to get short, and areas right here to look to get long. Now let's look towards the pound dollar. Now the pound dollar, this week we had, well, from last week anyway, let's look at last week's chart. So last week's chart, I mentioned that you know, there was obviously demand here, or it could have just been profit taking. But again, why would you be buying the pound if, you know, you're going through Brexit, etc., etc., right? A lot of uncertainty with the pound. So there was no way I was going to look to be a buyer here of the pound, and obviously we can see what happened this week. The pound did sell off through a couple of demand zones, right, and we managed to catch a bit of demand or potentially profit taking right here. So present day, if we're looking at the chart, and let's go to the pound. We have obviously got a little bit of demand. Doesn't mean it's demand for the pound. It could just be, like I said, profit taking for the dollar, right? And if you sold here to exit, you know, your trade, you have to buy to exit. So there's going to be demand around here. Now this week, I did make a video on whether the pound was a good place to buy within this area of support and resistance. Right, and when I'm in a good area, it doesn't mean don't confuse that with you should or you shouldn't buy or sell. What I'm saying is that from a supply and demand perspective, was this a great, you know, a great area? And for me, it isn't. So I stayed out of this area. I want prices to come into an area of value first, bargain area, wholesale area, before I look to buy. Right, and I'm talking about buy the dollar. This area, yes, it can work out. Support and resistance, does work, but is it really an edge if everybody else is seeing the exact same level? Doesn't mean that prices can't react off of this, and obviously prices have, and you can look on a lower time frame. It looks like traders have obviously made some money off that. But if you're looking to take high quality trades, then what you want to do is wait for support and resistance within an area of value. Right, this is where the premium trade is. If other traders are making money off of that level, then fine. But for me, I'll be waiting for value first, as this doesn't represent this this resistance level doesn't represent the best area to get short. And part of successful trading is what I was taught anyway is something called trade selection. Where you really have to kind of try and select your trades and be very, very selective. Yes, this was an obvious level. There's a lot of traders looking to get, short here, and you might think to myself, you're a madman for not getting, for not getting short here. But again, I'm quite principled in my trading. Prices have to come into this daily area of supply for me to look to get short. Now, what could happen if we go to a daily level, daily chart? Now, if prices do end up, let me just move this up. Now, let's say, for example, prices make lower highs, right? Lower lows, right? Then this will become an area of supply right here. And then all I'll do is I'll wait for prices to come up into here to look for a short. I'm not always waiting for here, I'll be waiting for there. And as you can see, there will also be a level of confluence with horizontal support within that area, right? So I'm not worried about potentially missing moves. I've been in the market too long to worry about FOMOing in and taking trades where everyone else takes trades. Got to be principled to my supply and demand principles and my philosophy. So if you did take this short, well done. But if you're a supply and demand trader and you really want to take your trading to the next level, you have to be principled. You have to learn that trade selection and try to take the best quality trades you can when it comes to areas of exchange rates, etc. Right, so just be principled in your trading if you can. So anyway, getting on to this week's levels, you can see that in fact what I'm going to do is no, I'll keep this demand zone here. I'll keep it here. And if you do want to get long, then pretty much now is the time to get long, and then you've got a second demand zone around here. If you're looking to get short, again, you'd probably be waiting for prices to either make lower lows, then pull back, like I said, right? Or if prices reverse from here and start going higher this week, and then that would be the first area you'd be looking to get short, or the second area looking to get short. And again, it just depends on what happens this week with the Federal Reserve, right? Moving on to the pound yen. The pound yen, we have this area of resistance together with obviously our supply zone here. You can see where prices made lower highs and lower lows. Once prices made that lower low, all you have to do is wait for price to come back up into this area here, right? And then look for a short trade, decent trade, obviously, because the yen is a risk-off currency, and if the pound is going through its Brexit negotiations and a lot of uncertainty, then money flows will be going into the yen over the pound. Just be careful with the yen though, because technically they have negative GDP growth. They had, I think it was a Sunday or Monday, it came out. If you look at GDP, they are actually in, I think it's like -6. So if they have another negative quarter of GDP growth, they are technically in a recession, right? So just be careful. They're not doing too great economically. Japan. So yeah, if we go to the charts, and let's move on to here. If you are looking to be a buyer, right, there is some demand here, right, but personally, I'd probably be waiting for prices to come down into this area here before looking to get long, if I was to get long on this currency pair. If you're looking to get short, probably now, if you trade the daily time frame chart, would be the one. But you've got to also remember that you'll be buying really into a potential demand zone, right? So if this is going to be your risk reward, right, somewhere around here, if you're at least going for at least a 1-to-1, then you'd be buying, will you be taking profit right at the end of this zone? So you've got to ask yourself, will prices, or can prices come down to this, to the end of this area, or at least down in, into this area here? Now, why am I not placing this area as a strong area of demand? It is an area of demand, but I don't think it's a strong area of demand. As prices, we have had a hard in, hard out movement, but, and you know what, in fact, I will put it there, but just understand that it's not the strongest area of demand, right? There is demand. It has got this, what I call term, a hard in, hard out movement, but it's not a fantastic area of demand. So I'm going to keep it here, right? So if you do have prices come down into here, be my guest if you want to be a buyer of the pound, right? But understand that this is going to be the lower area, is definitely the strongest area of demand. This is an area of demand, but it's just not a strong area of demand, right? So I'll give you the option there. So those are pretty much your options. If you're looking to be a seller, obviously if prices do come back up into this area here or around here. Moving on to the euro dollar. So the euro dollar this week has pretty much gone sideways. If we press play, you can see that we did get an opportunity to get short again. In fact, I did miss this. I did want to add to my position because I got in short up here and I wanted to add, but I ended up missing this trade. And now we are just still resting within this demand zone, and where we've got, you know, horizontal support, and this touched a few times. I do expect it to come down into this area. My profit target is going to be around this 112, 112.5 level around here. So I'm nearly there, take profit. And that was from way up here. Yeah, so if you are looking to be a buyer right now, then you'd be looking for probably a buy trade right now, right? So this is where you'd be looking for any kind of you know, buying on the lower time frame chart. If you did see anything, if this takes, if this price action you know, is what you'd look for, then look for a buying opportunity. I think with the Federal Reserve looking to raise interest rates and really nothing positive happening for the euro, prices should break this level. And I say should, but don't like to predict. But I'm hoping that prices do break this level and I can just take profit at the end of the at this area, so I'm not left holding the bag. And but if you are looking to be a buyer, now's pretty much opportunity. Or if you want to be a buyer at the lows of this demand zone, and then if you're looking for any kind of selling opportunities right now, I would say anywhere back up into this area right here is going to be where you'd be looking for any kind of selling opportunities. But if you're going to again go down into the 4 hour, I'd probably say, yeah, probably somewhere around this 114.2 area or above to look for any kind of shorting opportunities. The higher the better, right? Moving on to the euro yen, and the euro yen again, it just continued to go sideways. So from really last week, we bounced off of this demand zone, top of this demand zone. We did come into this area of horizontal and diagonal support. Press play, and again we've reacted from there. And again, we're just between that supply and that demand zone. This is what is, known as a ranging market or price acceptance. So the market is accepting that price. The exchange rate of the euro is between this 1293 level and obviously this 127.69 area, 70 area. I do probably expect prices to break out one way or another, depending on obviously what happens from a risk on, risk off perspective, and maybe fundamentally. We go back to the charts, look at the euro, yen. Again, really nothing much to say about this chart. You could look for buying opportunities, but bear in mind that we have touched this a few times, this area, so probably wait for prices to break here and then look for buying opportunities. If you're looking for a selling opportunity, again here, anywhere within this supply zone would be the area to look for a shorting trade, or pretty much up here. That's really all to say about that pair. Next is the Aussie dollar and the Aussie dollar. I'm in this trade, managed to get in here, all the way up here. If you've been following me for a while, you'll understand why. I think from last week or the week before's video. So I still am short in this video, 170 pips up tonight. And I did make a video this week regarding whether if I should take profit around here, and my answer was no. So hopefully we should continue to fall lower, right? When it comes to this exchange rate, Fed increasing interest rates, hopefully we could get a push down into my profit target, and I think that would represent something like maybe like a 7 or an 8 to 1 on my second position, and that'd be a very nice way to finish off the year. But there was buying opportunity here if you were looking to buy, but obviously dollar being stronger, and there was negative news for the Australian GDP last week, which I did mention in last week's video. So we could be still continuing to go short. China as well didn't have great news. I can't remember what it was. I think they released it on Sunday or Monday. I think it was their manufacturing or their retail sales, something like that. And China, obviously, I think it was manufacturing, and I think China and Australia being China being Australia's main trading partner. If China does, poorly, then obviously it has an effect on the Australian dollar. So yeah, I do expect prices to continue to to fall, which is the reason why I didn't take profit here, and I expected prices to some profit taken to go on here before continuing lower. So if you are in this trade with me and you did take profit, hopefully you managed to get back in some way, shape or form. There wasn't a way to really kind of get in back in short from a supply perspective, but we are still within this demand zone. So there is still an opportunity to get long, depending on obviously your bias and what happens this week. From a supply perspective, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to around here, and we have made a lower low technically, right? So supply. So if you did want to get short on this, then here is going to be the area to get short. All right, so you'd be waiting for a pullback, lower time frame chart, and this is where you'd be looking for any kind of shorting opportunities to buy the dollar and short the Australian dollar. Do we have any? Yeah, we've got maybe the 100 moving average, one of the 100 moving averages as confluence within that area as well, that supply zone right there, as well as obviously this horizontal support and resistance for the top end anyway of that area. So decent trade to the short side. And again, that all depends on what happens this week. So just be careful, don't just blindly short, place pending orders, because there's going to be probably a lot of volatility this week. And finally, the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. And the Aussie yen, we did have price kind of broke through this demand zone, but then we had a bit of a move higher and we've got a move lower, right? So we did come up into this area, did kind of break this supply zone. Bit of risk on, came into the market, stock market, I think, you know, went higher a bit this week, and then we've managed to sell off. So I will probably update this chart, and let's go to Aussie yen. Right, why do we not have the demand zone? Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put demand here, right? Put demand zone there, because there is some demand here. Again, it could be profit taking. It's not going to be the strongest area of demand, but there is demand here, right? So if you do, let me just clear this. If you do want to get long on the Australian dollar, then anytime pretty much from now is where you'd be looking to get long. If you are looking to get short, this isn't, even though there is supply, it's not a strong area of supply, and I'm not about to start putting every area of supply and demand. So what I would say is if prices start making lower lows, right, and they break past this area here, then what you want to do is wait for a pullback into that zone there, because that would then create supply. And then you'd be waiting for a pullback into this, obviously depending on what candlesticks occur within this area, you know, here. But if we do get, you know, a negative candle that breaks below, I say break below, but, you know, even creates a candle wick below this low, then wait for the pullback and then look to get short. Otherwise, you'll be waiting for prices really to come all the way back up here into this area before looking to get short, right? So that's pretty much it for this week and this year when it comes to supply and demand weekly technical analysis. I really do hope that you found you know, these supply and demand zones useful and my analysis useful. And I'd definitely like to hear some feedback from you guys. Anything I could do, you know, a bit better in my explanations, maybe a bit more depth. And if you want me to go into a bit more depth about certain things, then and I can, within reason, obviously. Can't give away everything that I do. But from a supply and demand perspective, I will definitely look to help those out there who you know, need a bit of help in you know, improving their trading. So again, Merry Christmas, have a Happy New Year. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share if you do find this this analysis useful as well. And yes, until the next video, take care.